Yeah, I mean, we have when looks at that, it's not
First
just
of all,
saying.
it's a pleasure. And be open to it.
Yes, right. Like, I've always loved that blouse.
Hello? First of all, it's a pleasure to be here this weekend with all of you. I've slowly got to know many of you over the 2 years that I've been going to the church. And I love that church. I love you people. To me, it's like a big family reunion. And it's all full of love. There's so much love there. And I forgot my glasses, but I'm almost 80, so you gotta.
I have some reading papers here.
I keep thinking I might wear contacts.
Those look quite fashionable. That's very fashionable. Yeah, that's very fashionable.
I would like to read a little devotion for you before I read the prayer. And this book is Grace for a Woman's Soul. I love that it was given to me by one of my nieces. And the message that I'd like to read you is God's grace in our lives transforms us. Love of my soul, you are my light in the darkness. Your love fills me up as food does the hungry. When I am weary, you carry me in your arms. When I fall, you pick me up again. You are my strength. You are my joy. You are the one who has taught me how to love. With you in my life, I feel safe. It feels as if no harm could ever come to me. You give me the courage to go on when I think that all is lost. Your love lifts me up to the highest place, and my happiness excels all else. I love you with all that is in me, with all that I have. Without you, I would be lost. I don't know where I would go. You've made my life complete, and with your love, I can be whole. I love you more with every passing day. My joy continues to grow into a sea of dreams. You can make those dreams come true with your love of our blessed Lord and our Savior and his Father God, that is our Father God. And my love is there for you, dear God, as his love is here for us. Now I'd like to read a prayer that I wrote last night. If you just want to bow your heads and just take a little minute to rest. Dear Lord, your Christian sisters are gathered together to celebrate our love, our joy, our faithfulness, and thankfulness to you. You are our Heavenly Father. You have made us, and you have made us what you want us to be. And if we haven't been what you want us to be, you will make sure you do make us that way. A time planned, scheduled, bringing many of your devoted Christians together to worship you with our love, dear Jesus, and to thank you for the gifts that you bless each one of us with. We know that you love us, and this you do with your whole heart. We are blessed with being accepted as your personal creations, as your handiwork. No matter whatever I achieve, it will only be through your grace. We know that you see our struggles, and we know that you also see our sins. We know that our secrets are not ours alone. And if we trust them to someone else, they are still not. Because a lot of the people will break our secrets, but you don't, dear God. We thank you, Lord God, for creating the women you wanted us to be. You opened the doors of life for us. And as we get closer and more personal with joy, we can look into your face and see our reflection in your loving eyes. We receive your strength to overcome fears and obstacles. And how exciting, dear Lord, our God and our Savior, that you show and you teach us how to discover new ways of thinking and the importance of our faithfulness to you. Thank you for everything that you do in each of our lives, all the blessings that we see and that we don't see. How exciting that every day with your presence in our lives, you show us new skills to walk in new and exciting paths, hand in hand with you. God, your word is vital in our lives, and we women of faith gather together, pay respect, honor, and obey you all of our lives. Thank you from all of us for teaching us to see and understand your wonderful plans for us. We know you promise that in seeking you, we will find more of your treasures, more than we could ever imagine. Your word in Jeremiah 29:12-13 says that God made a personal promise to every one of his creation. The words read, "When you call upon me and come and pray to me, I will hear you. When you search for me, you will find me. If you seek me with all of your heart." Amen. Thank you.
Back from lunch, and it was nice getting around to the tables talking to everybody,
Yes, it was.
especially about Pinterest.
Yeah.
I love that. We're going to do a raffle now. We'll have 3 raffles, and then we're going to go on to our next presenter. All right?
No, okay, I always want to look. I did the same thing.
Laura Lou.
She went to wash her hands, she was digging in the trash.
Well, she knew one voice.
She just got here. I know.
I could hear him clean.
Oh, well. Yeah.
What do we got?
So Tara wins. Tara. Tara's our videographer.
Yes.
She was a last behind it.
You won it.
I told you. No matter how positive I am, I never mind.
Oh, my goodness.
Strong, yes.
Well, that's the only one.
I'd rather have Laura by myself.
We have to live my parents.
I
You gonna do another one? Take
know. Another one, a vicarious thrill.
Pay it forward.
No, they're.
Oh, no, we gotta put it back.
You don't have to worry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at that, it's an angel.
Carolyn.
Carolyn Hicks.
I like the magic touches of magic.
Sylvia.
That is just an
Oh,
so
We'd like to welcome Sylvia up here. She's going to do Know Your Wherewithal, your financial wherewithal.
Okay, we talked about knowing about. Okay, can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3.
But everybody may not.
We can hear you, we just can't see.
All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? We talked about improving your body, improving your mind, improving your spiritual being. And now we need to have you figure out what's in your pocketbook. And it starts with some pretty basics, and we're gonna kind of proceed through different phases in your life, because at different phases of your life, you need different things and you need to plan accordingly. But we're here to really talk about your job as a woman and how financially inadequate we sometimes make ourselves. And we don't need to be. It's really not that big of a deal, but it does take a little training and practice and, I guess, inquiries into this. So Patty talked about earlier today about being healthy body-wise and how to stay healthy spiritually. So I'm going to try and tell you how to be or stay more financially healthy. Now, I'm not an investment person, so I'm not going to give you any investment advice. It's sort of what works for you. But if you have certain opportunities and you don't take them, then you're really a fool. So, I mean, those are things to grow on. Everybody has a time in their life where something comes up and maybe they weren't expecting it. It could be a death. It could be a job loss. A downturn majorly, like we just went through the big thing with the market and housing market and the whole recession thing, that I don't think really anybody in here really was have that much of a memory of the Great Depression, but this is as close as we probably ever want to get to being involved in that type of thing. But even on our own personal life, and I'm going to tell you a story on why some of this meant so much to me. I mean, you know, you get married, you think it's going to be all wonderful and roses, and we don't want to always look back. But if we don't learn something by our mistakes, then we're a bigger fool. And I thought I was happily married and had a child who was 2 and another one who was 6 months old. And my husband walked out with our 16-year-old girl that had worked for our company, and just left town, left Dodge, and left me with literally nothing. Literally nothing. So you're like, okay, what do? You're gonna whine about it? You have 2 little kids that need care. They need help, they need to be supported. So, you know, the laws weren't as favorable in the 60s as they are today. You have more avenues depending on the state that you live in, I will also say. Some states are not as friendly to support payments and so forth. But the long and short of it is, thank God I had a great mom who let me live with her for a short time. I contacted the company I used to work for, which was AT&T. I had been a manager with them before I had started having my children, put in a resume. I thought, I will take anything. I just need support. They were a good company to work for. They offered great benefits, really great benefits. As a manager, I got all my Blue Cross Blue Shield paid for 100%. I had a free telephone. I was part of a pension plan that was a non-contributory, they paid. And we also had an employee stock plan that was part of that. So I thought, oh, please give me a job again. So I put my resume in, and they called me within 2 days and said, we have a manager's job open for you, close to where I was living at the time, and you can start in 2 weeks. So it was like, if there was ever, when you talk about an angel on your shoulder or God being on your side, he was there watching over us. Wow. So that got me back into feeling like, you know, how destroyed you are after you go through something like that. When I started talking about what we needed to do to empower women to learn a little bit about your finances, Daisy and I had a conversation at coffee hour one day. And how sometimes this, when it takes you back, you just, if you aren't really aware of what went on in your household, all of a sudden you go, well, I thought we had, and where did that go, and what happened to? So this is sort of like, you need to know those things. You need to know what happened to, where is, how do I keep track of these things? And it starts with some pretty basic information. If you are healthier, you're happier, you live longer if you are financially secure. And it isn't somebody necessarily making you secure, it has to be yourself. You have to know in your own right where you stand. Because something could happen tomorrow and it changes everything in your life. I gave you a folder here and it's got a lot of information in it. Some of it I think we need to work through, but the very first page in there is just regarding calling to get a free credit report. If you haven't called to get a free credit report on yourself, you need to do it, and you need to do it now. This is the free number that's run by the Federal Trade Commission, so it's not going to give you a FICO score, but it is going to show you all of your credit cards, your regular payments, how you pay, your debts, your mortgage, any other outstanding loans you have. It's also going to show if you have any judgments or liens. If you owed a hospital bill and somehow it never got paid, it's going to show up on this. What you need to do is peruse those reports. Check them and make sure they're accurate. In the age we live in right now with identity theft, there's another thing that you need to check on these reports. The FICO score is important when, Jane?
I'm sorry,
When is a FICO score necessary?
at all times.
Yeah, you'll have one, but we don't need to update it every week. If you check these reports and you have good.
I would check them every 30 days. I
Your
would
FICO
check-
score?
Well,
It's
my
gonna
FICO
screw up your FICO score if you check it every day,
Well,
every
mine
30
is a little
days.
different. My FICO score comes on my credit card. I have that. It's
Okay,
Discover.
okay,
So I'm a little
alright,
different than
okay.
that. So I see it
All right,
once a month.
well, the point was, most people don't need their FICO score updated every day. It's for large purchases. When you buy a house, the bank, your lender is gonna check your FICO score.
And that goes across all 3 reports.
Right. So, but these credit reports are not gonna give you your FICO score, but you need to track, how are you paying your bills? If you find that there's a balance on here that you have paid off, you need to contact that lender. That you usually can call the credit bureau and ask them, did you not get the payment recorded properly? They'll usually tell you how to get a hold of the lender that reported or the credit card company that reported it. Get a hold of them right away. I mean, this happened to me too. I was buying a house and I thought I didn't have any credit card debt at all. I had paid off everything. And this bill shows up and it's like $7,800. And I thought, I don't even have a Shell card. What is this? So I called the company and they said, well, it says Mr. and Mrs. on here. So you kind of forget that 11 years I had been divorced and this was my husband's debt. I had to get a copy of my divorce decree documenting the date before they would take it off my credit report. So, and you know, in the meantime, it can screw up your credit report, your lending ability. Once you report it back to the credit card company, they have to report it to, or the agency. They all have to have that information updated. So it's important that you do that as quickly as possible so that
I have a
running
question.
report is up.
So, yeah, I hear what you're saying as far as if you have a bill that you're questioning and it's been paid, you go to the lender or go back to the credit company and try to resolve it.
Right.
But what if there is something on there that was, what if there's no way you can go back to those people? Then how do you get something removed?
Well, if it's
Maybe, for
reported on
example-
that report, they have a record of where
There's
that
some
came from.
documentation, yeah.
So
So
you
they-
go back to them still?
Yeah, go to the agency first. They will give you a record of who reported that. It had to be as current as when they ran that report. I think probably hospitals are one of the worst to update their files because they get bills that are paid and then payments don't get posted as promptly on the credit reports. But
And you can challenge them, and there's a deadline that they have to prove it, or they have to remove it.
Mhm.
Okay.
so these are just, you know, this is one thing. It will make you healthier financially to know where you stand. that your bills are paid, that somebody else isn't stealing something from you. But you can start avoiding this on the credit reports if you have a big gob of credit cards in your wallet, or like whatever you keep at home, you know, every time you go to Macy's or some new store says, you know, if you buy all this stuff today and you get a new credit card, we'll give you an extra 20% off. Don't do it.
It's not working.
I mean, you probably have a MasterCard. If you really want to buy, you can put it on a MasterCard, but don't open up another new card. It's just another line of credit. It isn't really going to help you all that much, and I would just say, don't do it.
Our financial person told us if really the more credit cards you have, it negatively affects.
It can negatively impact you depending, it's based on two different things, like your total line of credit. So if you had 20 cards and it gave you, some of them give you 50,000 or 100,000 if you warrant it. They won't give you that if you don't make enough money to warrant this huge credit line. But they do monitor your ability to pay and all of those other things. So if you had 50 cards and it says you got $500,000 in credit, what's to say if you were really foolish that you wouldn't go out and use it all and squander it all, and then you'd have no ability to repay. So that can even change your FICO score if you have a limited amount. When you get your credit card bill every month, check it over. Check it over to make sure that the payments are there that you made, that any of the charges that are on there are correct. And I have another story about that.
Or incorrect.
Well, incorrect. Well, yeah, whatever appears there is either yes, it should, or no, it shouldn't. I do check mine online and pay them online generally. So I looked at this and I'm thinking, I thought all I had on there was the groceries I charged and something else this month, because it's a good habit to try and pay them off. And all of a sudden it's like $1,800. Like, okay, what is this all about? And there's all these charges for like $300, $300, $300, Texas. I thought, okay. So then I looked on I scrolled up. At the top of the screen, there's a little red flag. It says, call us right away. So I called the credit card company, and they said, oh, we're glad you called. We red flagged your account, which means I actually couldn't have used the account as well. That they said, we have identified these charges and they don't look like charges you would make. And I said, well, can I ask where they're from? And they said, yeah, they're from a jail in Texas. It's like, no, honest to God, I was not there. I really swear I was not there. So they said, well, we didn't think so. So they had to cancel my credit card, issue me a new credit card. But I was very thankful. When I got home, they had also mailed me a warning notice, like you need to call them right away. So some of the companies are really good. Laura?
I just wanted to tell you that the Harpers went to New Orleans last year, and I was buying music from vendors. And I was using my debit card and credit card, and the vendors were from all over the country. And then I tried to use my debit card to go on a tour, and they wouldn't take it. And I called my bank because I knew that I had put in enough money to cover it. And you know what? They flagged my account because of all these charges from all over the United States were not normal charges that would have been on my account. And so I had to explain the situation, and they took the flag off and gave me my account back again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's important. If it's a card, I try and restrict my credit card use to 2 cards, like my American Express and a MasterCard, so that you have those, and usually I carry a debit card, so usually that's sufficient to cover pretty much any place you go and pretty much in the world anymore. So try and keep it down. But when you use your credit cards, be responsible. Because if you carry a huge balance, go look at how much interest you paid. And if you ever miss a payment or you're late on a payment, they can jack up your interest rate. I think some of the top rates are like 26 or 27% now. That's horrible. So you could leave yourself open for those things if you have too many accounts. I mean, in real estate, I would see people who couldn't buy a house because they had $60,000-$70,000 in credit card debt, and they're only looking at a $160,000 house. The bank says, I don't think so. You're not gonna get a loan. So, manage your credit. If you don't have the cash, maybe you don't need that thing today. If you're gonna use it to track your expenses, then try to, if like for instance, you're buying groceries. Everybody needs groceries to some extent. Some of us need wine more than others, and some things, things that are important to us. But if you're gonna buy those things, those are their regular expenditures. You should have the money in your budget to pay for those things. That means when the credit card bill comes, pay it. Then you will have the use of that money for 2 to 3 weeks, whatever it takes, by the time you get the bill and you pay it, for free, for nothing. I mean, that's the best gift you can get, is the ability to have a short-term loan for free. So, that's kind of rule number 1 on credit cards. Try and avoid using them. If you don't get a card that makes you pay an annual fee. Some are ridiculous in what they want you to pay. Some are $200, $100, if you can avoid that. There are lots of cards out there that can give you the same thing without paying for anything. So try and check on those. You can go online, you can find a million companies. If you can find one, check the interest rates as well. Some have much better interest rates than others. If you are going to have to carry a balance for any amount of time, try and find one that has a more favorable interest rate. And for anything, don't miss a payment, because that will just, if you know you've missed a payment, and I have done it, but not very often, call them right away. Call them, pay it online as soon as you possibly can, and call them. And oftentimes they'll take it off. They won't charge you the late fee, and they'll void it, because you have taken the time to manage your credit. And that's very important in managing any of your finances. So if you get the cards, and if you can manipulate a card that has both a good interest rate, no annual fee, some of them will still give you points. And the points are good with like a catalog online, and you can buy stuff, which you're actually getting for using your points. Hopefully you're using it properly. But you might be able to get a birthday gift or something, and so you've sort of doubled up on it. You got something for nothing, literally. So those are sort of, a good thing. And I'll give you one more, my own little story. Years ago, I was building a house for myself. And I had a contractor's license. But you can, in Michigan anyhow, you can act as a general on your own house. You just hire all the subs and, work together, and it's not that tough. So I had learned real quickly that when you set up a mortgage, a loan for building your own house, you set up all the paperwork, and when I would get bills in, like $26,000 for lumber or something, I could go down, pay it with my charge account, get that credit for all the points on there. Then I would set it all up, get the lien waiver I needed, go to the bank, get a draw, and pay for it right away. So I never paid any carrying fee on my credit card. And I got a zoodles of points. And the first time I went to Italy, it was for free on my points. So just some little things. Maybe you aren't going to go to Italy and you aren't going to be building a house anytime soon. Well, it might be a gift for a child or yourself, some purse that you wanted, or one of Jane's bagisms that could come free.
They also have one credit card, I think it is the Discover, that gives you cash back.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it
there's
gives you $1
several.
or something that gives you the cash back that you had spent, and you can use it to pay your credit card.
Yeah, oh yeah, there are several, I think, that
Which
do
is
that.
fantastic.
We have the American Express through Costco. You actually get 4% off gas. It's actual money. So at the end of the year, they'll send you a check. You just go cash it. It's actual cash. So it's minimum 1 point, and then there's 2 points on dining, 4 points on gas. percent. So that's what we use, that you spend and you pay it off, but then you get cash back.
Yeah, we just did ours
That's a
too.
nice
We just got our
surprise.
check in February.
See?
So, yeah. I'm familiar with that one.
Well, I use the Southwest credit card, and I get free flights all the time. You know, I'll go online, and it'll say how many points, and I'll say, I have that many points, and so something that might cost me, you know, $300 each way or something.
So, I mean, there are a lot of advantages to
Yeah.
using, again, when you get the
Yeah.
bill, it's important to be able to pay it off.
Yeah.
So otherwise, any of the points you gain, gone, they're just down the drain here. Okay, so keep this in mind. Sometimes it's a good thing to go on and check these. If you haven't done it in a long time, I'm just urging you, please do it. It's really important to your own financial health. If you look at the second handout in here, it's marked assets and liabilities. And if you look at these sheets, and I know we're kind of cramped for time, but otherwise I would make you sit down, write all this stuff down in here. And if you look at the list of assets in here, I tried to think of everything I could possibly think of that's an asset. And I want you to do that. And then I want you to do the same thing for all your liabilities. The difference between your assets and your liabilities is your personal net worth. But I'm also going to tell you to do it again and list only the things that are in your name only. Not a joint account with anyone. So if your house is in a joint account, it is not in your name only. If your bank accounts are all in a joint account, it is not in your name only. If you want to be financially responsible and feel like you have a little extra freedom, you need to set up your own account. Your husband can know about it, your loved one can know about it, and they should, but you need to have that ability. If you want to go out and buy that bagism, then you'll have the money because you have it in your own account. And I think you need to do it. You need to have a bank account in your name. You need to have credit cards in your name. It just gives you a financial stability. If some emergency came up and you're left holding 2 kids to support and so on, and you don't have anything in your name, you'll find out real quickly what you need. So I would urge you, check all of these things. And if I can digress for 1 minute, when you talk about the credit scores and what we talked about in that, the other thing that's based on having good credit and good payment habits is how much they charge you for your insurance, for your homeowners and your car insurance. So if you have good credit, you'll get the best rate. Maybe Pam can talk about that too, I don't know. You must handle a lot of insurance at your company. Let's see. So if you take that home, please do it, because I think you'd be amazed at what you have there. Some things are not, you don't think of always as assets, but they really are. I mean, another thing that you probably have as an asset, and I can't put a value on it, if you're paying for one you can, and that's a college education. Your college education is a great asset to you. And I think sometimes you need to be aware of what your own resume is about yourself. Who am I? And not only financially, but who am I? If something happened and you lost your job tomorrow, what would you do? I mean, define yourself. I mean, how much am I worth? Your financial worth is also like, what am I worth? So you need to assess that. It's like, do I pay myself? You need to decide that. How much do you pay yourself? And so on. When we were talking about divorces, and it can happen, you think you're very well established in your marriage and all of that, and all of a sudden it goes south one day. A woman's financial credibility goes down by 30% when the divorce happens. Men's, 10. So they take a very small hit on their financial credibility. Women take a big thing. I mean, it just ends up, really becoming, usually that's the crux of the whole divorce settlement is who gets what, how much does each person get. So you need to kind of define these things in your own mind and just have a little better knowledge of some of the things. And I know this is sort of off the wall, but I ran into this when I was doing some of the research on this. Every state has different laws regarding what you get, how they split up your property. Some are 50-50, some are not 50-50. Some, if you have it in your name, it's yours. He has it in his name, it's his. Joints are sometimes split 50-50. Sometimes it depends on how long you've been married, who gets what. Some also have debtor laws, like if it's in both names, it's both parties responsible. Sometimes it's not. So you really have to look at your state. But some of them also, Florida has a pending law right now, it hasn't been passed yet, that will disallow alimony. And you think, okay, because either spouse today can pay alimony and or child support. So you have to think of that. I mean, if you're making a good living and you get divorced, you could be paying your husband alimony and child support. But the long-term alimony laws may be a thing of the past in the state of Florida very soon. Gee, who do you think passed that legislature? I'm sure there weren't a lot of women on that legislature that put that vote up. And I think that now there's a debate about what about people who've had it for a long time, will they eliminate? I think they've gone back and sort of decided maybe they would have to grandfather that in. I mean, you could have somebody who was very needy as far as physically disabled or so on, who was awarded alimony payments, or mentally disabled. So, there's got to be some exceptions. But just, if you're concerned about it, or I just think women need to be there at the front of these laws and contact your legislator and find out, what kind of laws are affecting women in these states. And lastly, as far as joint things we have, if you're married, you in all probability file a joint tax return. Because we have any tax people in here? Any tax people? I mean, my son's a CPA, but that doesn't help me a lot. He's supposed to do my taxes and I still aren't done. Anyhow, when you get your tax return to sign, which is to be signed by both parties, please look at it. Please look at it. Because, if you've got 180 pages of your tax return, which my old tax returns with us together, you probably have the same thing, and some of us do, you don't sit down and read through every single thing, but sometimes you miss things like, how did that get reported that way? That wasn't really true. And if the IRS audits you, you're going to pay big time. Or if you get divorced subsequently and then you find out, like one of my friends, that she'd signed all these, got divorced, and was, divorced for probably 6 or 7 years. And then her husband died, her ex-husband died. And she started getting notices in the mail, dunning notices. And she was a nurse, and they were garnishing her wages. The IRS was. Because her husband had been investigated, and he was a doctor, and had tax fraud. So she was the remaining spouse who would sign the income tax returns, so she was responsible. So you kind of have to watch some of these things you don't even think may ever occur, but it's funny, they can sort of sneak up and knock on the back door. So just some other reminders. Behind that sheet, to go along with your assets and liabilities, and this is probably an ugly word for most of us, and it's called budgeting. And normally in business, we try and figure out, well, how much money do I think I need to run my business for this year? And then you kind of allocate it as part of your monthly business plan and so forth. But a lot of us never do it at home. We always think, all right, if you look at that sheet, and you fill it out, say, okay, let's see, how much do I really spend in a month? Oh, I think I spend this and this and this. And then you go back to your QuickBooks or whatever you keep track of your stuff in, and then you go, oh, I spent a whole lot more than that. Where'd that money go? Where did that money go? And I think there's this, the little difference between what I think and now what I know. So where that money goes is real important for you to build any kind of financial strength.
But
When-
you know, one time, I don't own a business or anything, but one time I got a notebook and wrote down every single penny I spent for the entire month. And it was just amazing, the things I was spending money on.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying, Patty,
And you
it's just
say
like,
like, I can't go out to dinner like that, that's nuts, you
well,
know?
Starbucks.
Huh?
How much is a Starbucks?
Well, if you
50
get a
or something? I
Starbucks
don't know.
coffee every single day or twice a day, how
Quickly
much
I'll
is
forget.
that gonna add up? And it's stuff that, it's not within your, you know, you think about your mortgage, your car payment, your insurance, your this, that.
The obvious things.
The obvious things, but all these other things that are outside the box.
And a lot of times, those are what's eating your wealth away. It's
Right,
just
exactly.
taking money away, you know, totally. I found a great quote, Everett Dirksen, who was, if anybody's from Illinois would know him, he was a very famous senator. And Everett Dirksen has a lot of quotes, but one of them I think is true today and could apply to us maybe in not the same numbers, but he said, $1 billion there, $1 billion here, pretty soon it adds up to real money. And I think that's, you know, sometimes the government does that, but sometimes we do it ourselves.
Oh, that's so funny.
The next whole packet, there's 2 different packets we have in there after that. The first one is sort of tracking all your stuff. I mean, it's just giving you, and you should keep this and put it together. And I just call it like you're getting it together list. I think they used another word, but.
Yeah, I think so.
And if you don't have this, a lot of people do this when they set up a will or a trust, that like all your bank account numbers and, you know, how much stuff do you have in stocks and bonds and all of these other things. And where is it? Where do you keep these records? Who's your stockbroker? Who's your whatever? I mean, you need to keep track of all these things. This is sort of putting it in one place, and you need to put it in there. Even dumb things like your PIN numbers, your user IDs, your you know, a lot of companies want you to change. My bank in Michigan, one of my banks in Michigan, requires you to change your passwords. Pain in the you know what. Every 6 months, you have to change your password. So I don't go on that site that often, but you always have to keep changing your password. It's a pain, because I've always got, no, that's not my password anymore. So you have to make sure you update these things. Because in an event of emergency, you're going to need these things, or your family or someone is. So kind of keep track of where this stuff is, your insurance policies, all of those things, yes.
You know, when my mom was the financial person in the family, which was a benefit, however, when she passed away a year and a half ago, we had asked her, I can't even tell you how many times, where is this, where is that, what's the information on that, so she passed away, we had
Yeah,
this.
0.
We had 0, so my poor dad, this is how bad it was. He didn't know how to use an ATM, and nobody in the family knew my mother's ATM card PIN number. Nobody, okay? We finally found it from the housekeeper.
The housekeeper had that?
Well, because she...
Inappropriate.
No, she was the one who went out to do the grocery shopping for my mom every week when she got disabled. But anyway.
Yeah, not a good idea.
No, but it was-
I would not recommend it in your
No,
financial,
but I.
knowing your financial
I mean,
wherewithal.
it
Do
was
not give
okay,
the
but-
housekeeper your PIN
But
number
there's,
either.
I mean, we're looking at it from a women's perspective, but from our perspective as her family and her husband who needed to know how to pay the bills, and it was a disaster.
Well, take this information that I'm giving you here and apply it to yourself. But if you do have a mom, a grandma, an aunt, or anyone, trying to go over this with them, because they, you know, somebody's going to need this information for them as well. I mean, it's vitally important to have this information in some area that it can be obtained and should be updated at least every 6 months to see if anything changed. No, I don't have that bank account anymore, I changed insurance companies, I don't use that financial advisor anymore. It's just all vital information.
Isn't it good too to, if you're not using a card, I mean, I've always been told this and I still practice it, but if like you know, like when she was younger, I had a Justice card to buy her all her Justice outfits. Well, she's outgrown that, so I called up and canceled. So doesn't it look better? I've always told it looks better instead of leaving all these accounts open that you don't use, for you to go in and close them out.
Yeah, and I think the only time when they say, don't go in and close out a lot of accounts,
Right.
is if you do it judiciously, like you're talking about here.
Years later.
Here's there, yeah, and you don't want to, like, if you're on the verge of buying a new house and you need a mortgage, you don't want to go in and close up a bunch of accounts, because it lessens your credit line. But like you're saying, you don't really need to keep them around. A lot of times if there's no annual fee or there's nothing on them, you can just cut them off. They'll just drop them off eventually, so it shouldn't really done it, but yeah, you're good. Other thing I just want to remind everybody, in your budget, include something for savings. We are the worst savers in the world. We have a tendency, I think maybe years ago, I'll give you one more horrible story about my family, but I grew up on a farm, like Diane and Phyllis and I all grew up on farms. And farming is a business. And it's a big business, really. I mean, you have a lot of stuff to manage, you own a lot of land, you have to create an income, you have to know how to do all those things. So I was relatively a newbie in real estate, and my mom had sold our farm where I was born and had actually purchased another farm. So we were sitting having coffee one day, and I know I had talked to so many young people who just couldn't get their act together to come up with a down payment on a house, even the 3% for FHA or whatever it was, just couldn't save anything. So I sat down with my mom and I said, okay.
I thought I had it turned off, I am so sorry.
Thanks, Laura.
Now.
Little entertainment. All right, but quickly. So I said, okay, Mom, you guys bought this farm, you bought it and closed on it in 1946. That's right at the end of the war. All these things had going on, rationing, all this stuff. I was due 2 months after they had purchased this new farm. They had rented all the years. I was the 5th child. So they had 5 children to support, or 1/5 one on the way. I said, so, okay, Mom, what'd you pay for the farm? And she said, we paid $40,000 for it. Now, today's market, that doesn't sound like a lot, but in 1946, 45 would have been 46, it was a lot of money. And I said, so how much money did you have to have for a down payment? Thinking about some of my clients. She said, we had $12,000. And I was floored. And when they talk about egg money, it really was. My mother had a big garden. They lived close enough to an area by our lake, recreational lake. And even during the war, people need to eat. So she sold eggs, she sold fresh chickens, she sold milk, which you could do in those days. And she even separated cream sometimes for people who wanted fresh cream. And she sold a lot of vegetables from the garden. And they managed to put together $12,000, which to me was such a great example. I mean, if they could save $12,000, why can't this kid I'm working with and his wife save $300 for this down payment? And sometimes you just have to be gritty and say, you know what? You cannot buy a house. You are not financially responsible enough to come up with a down payment. How are you going to manage the payments, the taxes, the maintenance, and all the other things that go with home ownership? I mean, it's a whole big ball of wax you need to put together. Maybe they need to be in an apartment for 3 years until they can figure that, part of life out. And one last thing before, all of these papers you need to do, and seriously, you really do need to do them. One of the other things you all need to do, besides putting in your budget some kind of savings, if you are working for a company that offers any profit sharing, 401k, take advantage to the fullest of any contribution that your employer will give you. It's free money. Put as much as you can put in there. If you are self-employed, set up a SEP and put in that. There's great, huge amounts of money that you can put in that self-employed pension plan. And you need to set that up. And, you know, if you contribute to your IRA, Roth IRA, whatever you can do, it will help you. You know, there's never going to be enough money to retire on. So every little bit. But all of these things give you a blanket, a cushion that will make you feel healthier. Because if you're financially healthier, you're going to be less depressed and you're going to be physically happier. And one last thing, and all of this stuff that I gave you, there's a great little article I read about something called a legacy box. And a legacy box is something you can actually do in 2 parts maybe, but know where it is, tell whoever the executor or your loved one is who's going to handle something in the event of your demise. Put all your information together, just like we have here. But I would also tell you to put in there notes to your loved ones. Because no matter how much you've got in there, the most important thing you can leave them is a personal note. So on that, say, there you go.
Very nice. Thank you.
It's here.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Sylvia. I think that knowledge was some of the best knowledge we could get today, this afternoon, to be honest with you. It's my turn. We're talking about reinventing yourself here, and I'm not going to read from my notes. It's late in the afternoon, and I'll tell you a few stories, and I think we could all relate. But out of all the presentations we had today, I think this sums it up, the reinvention of yourself. And you can take something from each and every presenter today, and that will help out. When it comes to being a woman in this world today, you have to really take a deep look at yourself and know who you are. And when you look in the mirror, you have to be able to identify that person. Not what you think people see, but who you are. And that comes along with wardrobing, financial wherewithal, spiritualness, mindfulness, and everything else we've spoken about today and last night. I think for myself, listening to all of you has really brought everything together for me with this conversation that we're about to have. And while I was sitting there and Sylvia was finishing up, the first thing I thought was, did I get married and divorce myself? And I was thinking about all these things you were saying, as far as your financial wherewithal. And as women, sometimes when we get married, we divorce ourselves. We forget who we are. And I just got married 5 years ago. I got married in my late 40s, mid-40s, wait a second here, in my mid-40s. And for a long time, I took care of me. I had the opportunity to go to university, and thank God, I finished up. But I didn't take that route of what I took up in school, which was finance. However, in retrospect, everything I have done up until this time, finance came along with it. And it has helped me out to this stage of my life. And it's so important to understand who you are as a woman financially, physically, mentally, and where's the girls? Even sexually. And that comes along with menopause. So that's where I am at this stage in my life. And that has brought me a different look at myself also. Knocked me off my feet for a while. And we don't know each other. We only see each other in church, and this is really a nice way of having a conversation with you all. I have reinvented myself several times in life, even after I got married. And when I say, did I get married and divorce myself, I really think that's a part of me and a part of my truth. Because when I got married, before I got married, I was this very, very independent woman. And the only job I ever had in my life was a flight attendant. Everything else I created myself. Any other jobs, and I've had several careers. I'm 52 years old and I have gone through several careers. And my husband always says, master, what did he say? He says, master at all, and then something, I can't think of the saying. Jack of all trades, master at none. And I always look at him and go, that wouldn't be right for me. I mastered them all. So when I say I have had several careers I've had, I was a flight attendant. That was the only job I've ever had in my life. It's the only job someone gave me. After being a flight attendant for 4 years, and I just want to take you through a journey of different things I've done in my life. After being a flight attendant for 4 years, I realized I had a part-time job with full-time benefits, taking advantage of everything you have talked about, 401ks and so forth, which was a great start for me. And that was after receiving a financial degree and not working in that field at all. Once I decided to leave being a flight attendant, I knew that was not my full journey, and like I said, it was a part-time job with full-time pay. I left after 4 years. 2 years into the career, I realized this is not what I was meant to do. I don't want to be up here serving people. I want to sit in the seat and be served. So how do I make that transition in my life and make it happen the way I want it to happen? So I decided, well, I'm going to do something that people probably wouldn't or couldn't think I would be able to do. I decided to be an interior designer. I had no degree. I never thought about it before, but I knew interior designers make a great deal of money. And I started speaking to one of the pilots, and I told him, I said, I don't want to be up here anymore. I don't want to sit here. And next thing I know, I'm 60 years old, and I have, well, at that time I was very young, so now I'm almost 60. I have wrinkles, and I'm telling this young flight attendant I brought the Vietnam soldiers home, because that's what happened to me. And I remember looking at that flight attendant going, no, that can't be me. I can't be that person. So I took 2 years of flying, and then the next 2 years I decided to fly wherever my heart desired. And I went anywhere and everywhere I thought I wanted to go, so I won't miss out on anything. And I quit after the 4th year. People thought I was crazy. They thought, well, what are you doing, Jane? You go anywhere you want. You save your money because they give you money to, when you're, what do you call it? I'm sorry.
Deadhead?
When you have layovers, they pay you for your layovers. You don't have to spend much money to eat because you go to inexpensive places. You know where you're going. You're in Italy, you're in Greece, you're in Japan, you're wherever you want to go. And I just said, you know what? I think I want something more. And I took that chance. And I just one day created a card that said, Advantage, Jane Bond Interiors. And I took it and I ran with it. And I decided I was not going to fly international anymore. How would I target my market? How would I find my clients? Because who's going to hire me? I've never done interior design in my life, but I've traveled around the world enough that I know quality versus quantity. And I started chartering flights with football players because I knew they had disposable income. And I met one, and I told him my story, and he gave me an opportunity. And actually it was Jackie Walker from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who introduced me to Vinny Testaverde, who had just won the Heisman Trophy. Was it a little luck? Yeah. Was it a lot of work? Absolutely. Did I have to keep my mouth shut and listen to a lot of people? Definitely. And I took that journey, and I ran with that for 10 years of my life. And I moved to Manhattan. I was living in Philadelphia, moved to Manhattan, and it was all through word of mouth. Apparently, they felt as though I was good enough. At first, I was a decorator. Then I became a real designer. And at the end of that journey, I was awarded a 10-page spread in Home and Design magazine. And even at that point, I didn't think I was a real interior designer. I went to school. I went back to school. I went to the new school in New York, and I went there for 2.5 years and got a certificate and learned how to do AutoCAD because I wanted my peers to know that I was an interior designer. And that was my own insecurity, but I was good enough. After I decided I had conquered that challenge, one of the football players' wives came to me and said, Jane, do you think you could help me out? And I said, help you out doing what? She said, manage my career. I don't know anything about managing. She looked at me and she said, Jane, it's all business. And I thought about it and I said, you're right. It is all business after a few weeks. And I took that on. And it was, when I decided to do that, I had to kind of take another look at myself and say, am I confident enough to deal with these people? Now we're talking a whole different realm of a different industry. And how am I going to go out and do that? So I had to go back and reinvent myself yet again. I didn't know what a entertainment manager looked like. I didn't know what an entertainment manager did. But her saying to me it was all business made me understand that that's exactly what it is. So get down to business, Jane. So I did. And I was able to take that and run the next 10 years of my life with entertainment management and opened up a company in New York. So when we talk about reinventing ourselves and becoming a chameleon in different communities, it's not a very easy task to do, but if you have confidence in yourself as a person, as a woman, and more so as a woman, I mean, because women, we can do anything. We take care of everybody.
Absolutely.
We're mothers, we're girlfriends. I mean, we do it all. We're grandmothers. We run the whole gamut when it comes to being a woman. And no one out here can do that but us. So you have to take care of yourself, and you have to always remember it's about being confident. It's about knowing who you are, identifying that person in the mirror, and running with it. And if you feel as though you can't do something, talk to somebody. They'll show you how to do it. All you have to do is ask. And right now, at this point in my life, at 52, I moved here about 8 years ago with my new husband. And I had to yet reinvent myself again. Because now I'm not in Manhattan, I'm not with this crowd that I was with as far as entertainment. There's no industry here, so I couldn't come here with my business, and my husband wasn't gonna have me traveling 7 months out of the year. And that's what I did as an entertainment manager. I traveled 7 months out of the year with my clients, pretty much. And then when I met my husband for the third time, I had to incorporate him into that lifestyle. And I found myself here in Naples, Florida. Different place, different people, and no one that looked like me. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but that was my life. That is my life, or was my life 8 years ago. I arrive in Naples. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't play tennis. I don't golf. I'm an avid runner, and that's what I do. How do I make friends? How do I meet people? How do I do anything as opposed to staying in the house? So I looked around, and again, it came to my mind. It's all business, Jane. And I figured out what works here. Well, everybody I met, their sister, their brother, their uncle, their cousin, was in real estate. I thought, oh, okay, that sounds about right. Big ticket item, big check. It's business. I get my real estate license. Not only do I get my real estate license, I get my broker's license. And I decide, okay, well, I'm going to go with the company I know of. That was Keller Williams. Get with Keller Williams. I won Rookie of the Year, which surprised me. And then I decided I want to do something bigger than Keller Williams. How do I go from here? Well, I went to Premier, and Premier said, you're a rookie, we can't hire you. You don't even know Naples. So all of a sudden, Sotheby's comes here. And I said to my husband, what a great company to be with. And if I can get with them, I'm sure I could move further up. And that's what I did. Anything I thought I wanted to do, I did it. I never stopped. I never stopped to think. I just said, I'm going to do it. I have to create my own opportunity. So now I come to another crossroad. I'm working. I'm making the money that I feel as though I deserve, but am I happy? No. I decided, no, I'm not happy. It's just business. Well, what about passion? What about fun? What about what you love, Jane? And I decided, I'm going to change it again. So I decided to write. And I decided to reinvent myself again. And some people find it very hard to reinvent themselves. Some people find it scary. And it can be scary. But that's where the confidence from within has to come from. And sharing with people like Stacy or Phyllis or whoever you find that's a close friend that could give you the support and say to you, hey, a failure is only a try. You can only fail if you don't try. You have to try. And if you don't want to try, then was never any thoughts about doing it anyway. So it's very important to, again, know who you are, understand your confidence level, and go out there and try it. And all the things I read to you are the things that I have been writing. And again, I'm very happy that I'm writing, and that's where I feel as though I belong. And to create another opportunity, I went to one of the magazines here, one of the glossy magazines here, and I shared with them what I wanted to do. And I couldn't believe it. They said, okay. Just like that. And here it is, I didn't think I was good enough. And the first thing I said is, by no means am I a writer, but I feel like I can write. And if I read this to you, you tell me. Be very honest and candid with me. And they were. So to sum it all up, it's about you. It's about the person that you look at every day in the mirror and decide if that's what you want to do. And decide if who you are, what's in your life. And when you look in that mirror, believe me, it'll tell you a lot. And you just have to be very confident and very honest with yourself. And just take the bull by the horns and go for it. You can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to do anything. Because if you're afraid, you'll never know. And you always, always have to reinvent yourself. And that's what all these ladies were talking about the whole time here. Reinventing your wardrobe. First thing Ann said is, I don't know how to do that. I'm trying to figure it out. Well, it's very easy. And we talked about it. And when you think about it, it's pretty easy. Spiritualists and yoga. I want to do the yoga, but I think I'm too tall. I don't know if my muscles can stretch that far. But I want to try it. And I have other things I want to do. And believe me, I'm going to try them before I leave this earth. But I think we all should be happy, and I think we all should try any and everything we want to do without hesitation. Because that's what life is about. It's about adventure and doing exactly what you want to do. And if it takes reinventing yourself 10, 15 times, so be it. Until you're happy. And that's what it's all about, being happy. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And on the last note is, it's really nice to meet all of you. I see you all in church. I'm not there every Sunday because sometimes I'm exhausted from all the things I'm doing. And it's been nice to sit here and talk to all of you. Tara, Stacy, I see you all the time, but we really never sit and talk. Nice to meet Ann and Phyllis. We've gone out once or twice for dinner. And you, Diane, it's nice to know what you do. I didn't know what you did at all. So it's really nice to meet you all and kind of come together and share things. And I feel like I've gained some friends here. Don't act like you don't know me tomorrow. But, but it's really nice to have met all of you. And thank you for having me also. And thanks for sharing all of your stories, because I'm taking a lot away with me. All right?
Thank you. And as she was speaking, I was thinking, when you look in the mirror, we have to learn to love that person enough that we'll do what it takes to reinvent yourself. have to love her enough.
Her meaning you.
Yes. We can love you too.
I love myself, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly, you can tell.
All right, well, let's do a couple more raffles. We'll take a quick break and then we'll go to Carolyn.
And Jane, I'm too short to be here.
Yeah.
When I lay on my back, I cannot put my feet over my desk. Yes. Okay, spiritual gifts. I have two handouts. One is homework. What'd you get?
What'd you get, Dee?
Yay.
It was one of the most perfect days of my life.
No, it's a mug. It's a cool mug. What a beautiful gift.
Oh, is that?
Huh? Very good.
Well, these are cool gifts.
Yeah, this is a cool one.
Spiritual gifts are things that you can give to yourself and to others. If you're at my age, you probably know the things you're good at and the things that you probably, I can't speak in tongues, for example. I can't interpret anyone else speaking in tongues. I know that's not one of my spiritual gifts. I have 20 spiritual gifts on my one sheet that I will pass out. On the other is homework. And the spiritual gifts are listed in a different way. I tried to combine them, but there's some that there wasn't a good crossover. So you just check the little check marks of things. This is the gift of administration. I like to organize facts, people, or events. Not so much for me, so I wouldn't check that one. But anyway, this is homework. Okay, the 20 spiritual gifts, and they each have biblical references. I'm going to read it first.
Okay.
And then this is, yeah, so you'll have two handouts. Let's see. It's proclamation, and there's 4 biblical references. The gift of proclamation is the work and will of God in various events of the world, large and small, and clearly communicate the meaning of these events to others. It's prophecy and foretelling. And I don't know that I particularly would be very good in proclamation, but I found gifts along the way that I didn't know I had until I started to practice some of these gifts in the various churches I belong to. The second one is servanthood, and it is a humble and unpretentious way of thinking, being, and doing. Those who have the gift of servitude do not simply possess this gift, they are servitude. Servanthood is selfless, sacrificial, and loving. Christians endowed with this gift minister without regard for recognition or public affirmation. The third spiritual gift is teaching the faith, and that is the ability to clearly explain the Christian faith and equip individuals to apply it in their daily lives. If you have this spiritual gift, you can communicate with both your words and your actions. In other words, you walk the walk and talk the talk. The fourth one is encouragement, and that is the ability to inspire, comfort, motivate, strengthen, affirm, and be present with others so they can meet life's challenges with confidence. I feel the church does a really good job of this. And, I had a portion of my life where I was not well, and the church lifted me up, and I always made a visualization of being raised by the people of the church, and God, of course. The fifth one is generosity, and that is self-explanatory. It's the ability of Christians to share joyfully and passionately what they have and who they are with others. The sixth one is nurturing leadership, and that is leading by sheltering, guiding, modeling, and other parenting type behavior. I'm cutting this back severely in the interest of time. Every one of these that I'll hand you out has a biblical reference that you could refer to. But I will not read any of that. The seventh spiritual gift is mercy. Christians are endowed with the spiritual gift of mercy. These people have an exceptional ability to perform acts of kindness and compassion to others. Those with this gift show mercy even to those undeserving of it, and that is very hard to do sometimes. These deeds are of unmerited love, and they're modeled after God's redemptive sacrifice of Jesus, a gift of loving mercy that we don't often deserve at times. Number 8 is wisdom. We all have wisdom. You have a mature, skillful judgment. You see the ramifications of problems, and then you sift among the possible alternatives to find solutions that are in accordance with God's intentions. And let's see, that's number 8. Number 9 is knowing. I had to really read this. The spiritual gift of knowing is having a deep personal relationship with Jesus Christ and sharing the insights gained from it with others. I know personally some of you are really good at this. Number 10 is faith. And the spiritual gift of faith is an unshakable trust and a deep conviction that God faithfully and reliably keeps promises. Christians with this gift have a profound belief and confidence in their relationship with Jesus that becomes an example for others. 11 is healings. The spiritual gift of healings is the miraculous capacity to bring God's healing to others, healing that surpasses ordinary human experience. Christians with the spiritual gift of healings do not just apply therapeutic techniques, they are vessels for extraordinary power. I think people refer to this as miracles. Although number 12 is miracles, and that ties in with healings. Christians with the spiritual gift of miracles are able to do great and mighty deeds that transcend the law of nature. And you always see in the news, they said that person would not live, and they rose from the dead, basically. They stopped breathing, and then they came back alive. And so 13 is discernment. Christians with the gift of discernment protect the spiritual health of the body of Christ by distinguishing true from false teachings, good from evil intentions, right from wrong actions. Okay, here we go with tongues. Has anybody ever heard anybody speak in tongues before? I've never had that. You have? And were you able to interpret anything? Okay, I mean,
I was in shock.
right.
Seriously, I was just.
I attended a class, and the person that taught it had actually experienced this. And we debated long and hard about, is this just a put-on thing, or do you really feel a spiritual move in your body that lets you suddenly speak, I'm sorry, gibberish maybe, but understandable to others? So 14 and 15 are tongues and interpretation of tongues. And they do have, in Corinthians, they have several biblical references to that. So I sort of brushed over that. 16 is apostleship, and these are God's ambassadors to a number of congregations. Those with the gift encourage many congregations with the gospel. They have the privilege and responsibility of spreading the faith, caring for and organizing churches, teaching about Christ, and directing mission efforts over large areas. Did I do that? 17 is helping. See, some of these sound like others, don't they? And that's why I had a hard time trying to combine some of these with the other set of papers. Helping are Christians with this spiritual gift assist others with practical deeds, especially during critical times. Those with the gift of helping have enhanced sense of compassion and willingness to tangibly support others, particularly those with whom they already have a relationship. 18 is visionary and managing leadership. This I'm thinking of being a manager and so on, and for a child that I was starting out extremely shy, I've had to really overcome a lot of things to get out there, and nobody believes now that I was ever shy. I was the child that stood on the sidewalk while my dad would knock on the door and say, "Would you buy Girl Scout cookies from the little girl standing on the sidewalk?" And I would be looking at my shoes. So, visionary is referred to the work of a pilot or helmsman of a ship, one who knew the way, the winds, and the shoals, and the one who could be trusted to take others safely to their destinations. Number 19 is evangelism. We probably all are familiar with that. If you have this gift of evangelism, you share the good news of salvation through Jesus Christ in natural and simple ways that touch people where they most need to experience God's love. And they also tell you in all these the Greek word and where these words came from. And finally, number 20 is shepherding. A Christian with the spiritual gift of shepherding gathers people together, demonstrates concern for their struggles and difficulties, and protects them from trouble or harm, and keeps them close to Jesus. Shepherds look out for those under their care. In a church setting, they might mean warding off antagonists and encouraging people to resist temptation and walk in the light of Christ. So those are the 20 spiritual gifts, and you can hand these out. Somebody? Anybody? And the second piece of paper, has some of the same, but some are different. I'll just read the headings: administration, apostleship. Discernment, encouragement, evangelism, and they also have biblical references: faith, giving, healing, helping, hospitality, that's me, knowledge, leadership, mercy, miracles, pastoring or shepherding, prophecy, teaching, tongues and interpretation of tongues, wisdom, and drawing conclusions about your spiritual gifts. So in the last page, they have little circles. You check the one that applies to you, and then on the last page, you can add up how many you checked under administration and so on. 5 would be, this is definitely one of my spiritual gifts. 4 is probably, and 3 is I'm unsure, 2 probably not, and 1 definitely not. So that's another handout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're both, Deb said I made it in cheerful yellow. Okay, thank you. Alrighty.
Carolyn, what was your, where did you, see these things? I mean.
I took a class
Oh, you took a class?
at another church.
Oh, okay.
It was over several weeks' time.
Oh, okay.
And there's yet another one that you rate yourself, but that was just too much for this.
Oh, okay, so that's where you had learned this?
Yes.
To begin with. Oh,
Yes.
That's nice.
And of course, we went into great depth, but in the interest of time, I thought I'd make it as brief as possible. Okay.
A lot of homework, isn't it?
Yeah, you got a lot of homework.
You got a lot of homework. Yes.
And we gotta do our picture. Did you get the second? I didn't get the second. Oh, what about the?
Ladies, before we start finishing up and wrapping up everything with the grand prizes, I think we all should give Stacy Holcomb a great applause. If it wasn't for Stacy, we wouldn't be here.
All the leaders.
Jay, all the leaders.
And all their sisters.
Take a break.